One of the great ladies, one of the great writers, one of the great commentators in America, Ann Coulter, is with us. Hi, Ann. Welcome to the show.
Hi, good to talk to you, Todd.
Well, Ann, let's get right to this. What went wrong with President Trump?
First of all, it was candidate Trump running against 16 clowns, so we had no choice but to support the only one who wasn't a clown. But, I mean, the one true deception of his campaign is that he was running, the whole campaign was him, Corey Lewandowski, and Hope Hicks for the first 10 months. That's what won him the nomination. Okay, then he dumps Corey Lewandowski for reasons that remain somewhat mysterious, but brought in Steve Bannon, wins the election, and, Bannon is sort of there, but demoted, and he brings in his kids and all these people from Goldman Sachs, which is something I was writing and denouncing him for back in November and December, right after he won the election. He isn't experienced at politics. He needs people around him who are on the Trump train. But no, he hired all people who apparently completely disagree with him on all of the major issues, particularly immigration, that won him the presidency. I mean, there's this article in Axios today I just tweeted out saying that Jared, Ivanka, the Goldman Sachs team of Gary Cohn and Dina Powell and General Kelly, how they all ferociously support DACA, the Dreamers Act, which will legalize not only every illegal in the country right now, but all of their relatives and extended family, and anyone else, any other foreigners who clamor across the border in the next 20 years. As I wrote in my column this week, there is no possible way to have just this one little amnesty. Oh, they're so deserving. Ignoring the horse crap about who the Dreamers are and whether we even want them. We don't. As I described, these tiny little targeted amnesties that we've had in the past, they go to the courts. They're endless. There are hundreds of fanatical left-wing activist groups, La Raza, various ACLU outfits, migrant rights outfits. They are just waiting, as we saw with Trump's travel ban, to bring lawsuits in the Ninth Circuit, get a Hawaii judge to say, oh, yeah, no, that's unfair. You don't have to show any proof. You don't have to pay a fine. You don't have to speak English. In fact, 20 years after the 1986 amnesty, the Ninth Circuit was legalizing hundreds of thousands of illegals whose claim was it was unfair that they couldn't get in on the last amnesty just because they weren't already in the U.S.
And what frustrates you the most about the Trump administration thus far?
Well, the open, defiant breaking of his most central promises, I suppose I would have to say. It looks pretty bad after Romney lost. I know a lot of people have problems with him, but he had the toughest stand on immigration of any of the Republicans back then. We've been what has been so frustrating it's not even Republican voters, just voters, is we have made as clear as we can possibly make it. We want less immigration. Stop dumping the third world on the country. 3 times Congress, and I mean Republicans, have conspired in the dark of night to try to pass amnesties. All 3 times it was shut down, not by a major media outlet, not by one political party or the other, but by the American people finally getting wind of the amnesty, calling in and shutting down the congressional switchboards. It is always a winning issue, and you would think, we just put the most utterly implausible character in the White House because of his stance on immigration, which everyone was screaming bloody murder about. No, these are the winning issues. And for Trump to abandon what put him in the White House, despite the Access Hollywood tape. He could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue, but if he thinks this is a cult of personality, yeah, I'm sure there's some segment of nuts out there who just love Trump the persona and, he was so great on The Apprentice. But that isn't what won him Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Ohio, the industrial Midwest. If he continues down this path, I guess there are three options. There's the organizing the death squads for the people who ruined America, because there will be no more hope. There's I guess the other possibility is to, well, I don't think anyone would mind him being impeached. What's the faction opposing that? And then at least we'll get Mike Pence. But in terms of saving America, maybe a third party. Interestingly, until he started saying crazy stuff, Perot was winning. You don't need to be an attractive person to win the presidency. Just run on popular issues. But neither the Republican Party nor the Democratic Party will run on popular issues. The Republican Party just insists on saddling its nominees with these suicidal positions that no one wants. What was so great about the Trump campaign, and his instincts are so great, until he surrounded himself with Goldman Sachs people and his kids in the White House and got rid of all the people who were on the Trump train with him, was that he didn't care if it was a Republican position or theoretically a Democratic position. He just took the popular side of every issue.
And
so any politician who wants it, the issues are there. They're sitting there. They are laid out in my book, In Trump We Trust. It doesn't take Trump to push them. It could be a funny-looking little guy from Texas like Ross Perot. Just take the popular issues, because the swamp will never take them.
So it sounds like what you're telling me is he's got a clean house in the White House. Who needs to go? If we're going to get the president back on track and focused on the issues that the voters sent him to Washington to deal with, who needs to go in the White House?
Oh, that's easy. Not just the White House, but the administration. Everyone except the president himself. Let's see, a couple of cabinet members we like. Well, obviously Sessions, the one he's directed the stream of abuse to. I mean, that New York Times article yesterday is really appalling.
It's disgusting.
Really appalling. And for those of you who missed it, it is how Trump blamed the appointment of an independent counsel, Robert Mueller, on his best cabinet nominee, Jeff Sessions, Attorney General, when, just to remind you all, the appointment of Robert Mueller is 100% the fault of Donald Trump for going on Lester Holt and saying, oh, yeah, it was my idea to fire him. That's what got the independent counsel. And by the way, whose idea was it to fire Comey, which Trump then took credit for after this carefully laying out the groundwork to say, no, it was the decision of Rod Rosenstein and Jeff Sessions. Whose idea was it to fire Comey, which was, as Stephen Bannon, I think, correctly said, the biggest mistake in political history? That was Trump's son-in-law. I mean, apart from all of the reasons Americans do not like nepotism, we are not a feudal society. Even JFK, the media took their noses out of JFK's butt long enough to complain about him appointing his brother Bobby Kennedy to be Attorney General. And by the way, Bobby Kennedy had a little more experience than Jared Kushner does. We don't like nepotism, but beyond that, all of the worst advice keeps coming from Jared Kushner. Not really a surprise. I'm not particularly blaming him. He has no experience in politics. He's a liberal Democrat from New York and a developer. His qualification for the job is he's the president's son-in-law. But anyway, the humiliation of Jeff Sessions by the president is especially appalling because he's one of only the roughly three people I'd keep. So there's Trump, there's Sessions. Wilbur Ross at Commerce is fantastic. And, of course, the magnificent speechwriter Stephen Miller, who may have to primary Trump in 2020 the way things are going.
Oh, gosh. Hey, I want to get your reaction to something that was said on that godforsaken network, MSNBC. This is Joe Scarborough, and he was talking about you earlier this morning. Here, let's take a listen to that audio.
There were actually people who were shocked yesterday that Donald Trump didn't do exactly what he told them they were going to do during the campaign. And no, I know that you'll appreciate this. It's people like Sean Hannity and Ann Coulter and Breitbart. But to hear them talk, it sounded an awful lot. It just sounded like members of the mainstream media. Like, he's doing what? He cannot do this. This is a shock. This is the most shocking thing I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah, so now you're a member of the mainstream media, Ann.
No, this is an absurd complaint. I mean, of course they're going to make it, but look, none of us had any. We're looking at Trump through rose-colored glasses. We knew what he was, but there was no alternative. When all the rest of the candidates running for president are being chased down the street by guys with nets, Trump is betraying us, let's be clear, by doing what every other candidate who ran for president promised to do. Ted Cruz, who, by the way, never, ever, ever could have won Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, so it's kind of and of course he's not a natural-born citizen, so it's a moot point anyway, but he wanted to quadruple legal immigration. Marco Rubio, all these guys, what did they say to Trump's proposals that won him the White House, i.e. the Muslim ban, building the wall? No, Ryan and McConnell and Reince Priebus and all the other candidates, John Kasich said, that's not who we are. They didn't say, hey, these are great ideas, but don't trust Donald Trump to do it. I'll do it. So, no, we voted for him for the issues. It's like, the Robert Frost poem. There are two paths in the woods. We took the path most promising. It didn't work. Oh, well, we had no choice at the time. Politics is a game that's played on the clock. You pick your best option with what? To throw in another metaphor for you, as Rumsfeld said, you fight with the army you have, not with the army we wish we had. It would have been great to have a candidate with all of Trump's positions, but more mature, more trustworthy, not likely to use the White House to promote his family. That would have been fantastic. Unfortunately, that person was not running. So what choices do we have?
Yeah, indeed. And is it real quick? Is it over, or can Trump woo you back?
Well, what I want is for Trump to be wooed back to the Trump train. As people keep saying, are you off the Trump train? No, I'm still on it. 63 million voters are still on it. It is Trump who has left the Trump train. I don't know what the odds are for this, but yeah, he's got to build a wall. There is no more central promise. And I keep seeing these, they will not, even though I am, as Joe Scarborough pointed out, and thank you for playing that for me, even though I am a member of the mainstream media, oh, no, they don't want to talk to me. No, their idea of they want to debate a conservative like Meghan McCain or Rick Wilson, and so I keep seeing these big fanatical and deep thinking Trump supporters saying, oh no, we wanted to trade DACA for E-Verify. No, forget E-Verify, forget employer sanctions. I mean, all that is really important, and God bless Senator Cotton. I really hope Republicans are not hurt by Donald Trump's perfidy. All of that can be changed by the next president, and I promise you there are never going to be employer sanctions. There were employer sanctions in 1986, and employers go to Congress and say, you want a campaign check? I don't want the sanctions. I want to keep hiring cheap labor. No, none of that will ever work. Only a wall is forever. That's why that was the chant, the motto, the theme of the Trump campaign. That's why he could have shot someone on Fifth Avenue, and no one would have minded, and he could have produced another 20 of those Access, or the media could have produced another 20 of those Access Hollywood tapes. We didn't care. He said he'd build a wall. Republicans get wiped out in 2018, and there's no way Trump's even going to run for re-election if he doesn't build a wall.
Absolutely. Ann Coulter, thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Good to talk to you, Todd. Bye-bye.
All right. The great Ann Coulter, ladies and gentlemen, dropping some mighty big truth bombs.